Hello and welcome to our webinar today. My name is Kevin Cunningham and I will be your host. I work within Yara's Food Chain and Global Solutions team, which are part of Yara's newly established Farming Solutions unit. My role is Global Grassland Solutions and Business Manager, with a focus on grassland solutions in dairy and beef production systems. So who am I? I'm Irish and based in Ireland, but I work globally across Yara's many markets. My expertise are over 10 years in the dairy grassland business in Ireland, working with farmers, researchers, advisors, and the industry, and also over 3 years working globally with many markets and regions around the world with Yara. Yara works with grassland farmers across 5 continents in over 20 markets worldwide. For us, the focus is on profitability, but also with a vision for better efficiency and reduced environmental footprint. We aim to work with farmers to deliver on their goals with a focused approach to grassland and dairy production. For example, maximizing forage in the diet in dairy production systems. And we have a whole farm approach, which is important as we understand dairy production has many different aspects of production, from field to shed. And also, we want to work with and listen to farmers to develop simple solutions that solve the challenges on farm. So who is Yara? We are a Norwegian-based company with operations across the globe. We have more than 800 plus skilled agronomists, which service over 9,000 retail outlets and sell to more than 160 countries globally. In Yara, our mission is to responsibly feed the world and protect the planet. The production of dairy and meat products is a key part of that and an area where Yara works very strongly. We also have a vision to reach a collaborative society, a world without hunger and a planet respected. And much like farmers across the world, we want to support all life and all that supports life. In Yara, we have 4 key values. Ambition, to be the best we can, both as a company and as individuals working in agriculture and beyond. Be curious of always listening and thinking outside the box on where solutions can be developed. To be collaborative, both internally and externally, as a company and as individuals. And lastly, to be accountable for our actions and decisions. And in the current climate challenges, we must work hard to find solutions that meet the challenges we face. So first of all, let us look at some global dairy challenges. In 2019, global dairy growth was 1.4%, which is considerably less versus the long-term average of 2.3%. This is impacted by numerous reasons, but weather is a big one. Dairy prices in 2019 globally held well, but the big production regions struggled to get large increases, including New Zealand, Australia, US, and EU. In 2019 and also into 2020, we also seen a reduction in demand. This is driven by numerous factors, but some of the main ones are consumer behavior towards dairy. Following the Eat Lancet report, consumers are looking more closely at the products they consume and the origination of these products. There is a global shift towards more sustainably produced products, and this is something that each nation and farmer must understand and embrace. In the latter part of 2019 and into early 2020, we also seen reductions in demand from key regions, including China, which has a big impact on global demand. Plus, global dairy is a very sensitive product, and often small shifts have big impacts. When we have good progress on output in many regions, we can very quickly have an oversupply in the market, which will negatively impact on milk price. The opposite is also true. When we have crisis in supply, we see a positive impact on price. On reflection in 2019, the average price of $37 per 100 kilograms is positive. There is large differences, of course, across the regions and markets, but in general, this price dictates or impacts more global shifts. 2019 has also been relatively stable for farm costs. We see a tumbling of oil prices, which will positively impact farm inputs, fertilizer for cereals, etc. But oftentimes there is a lag for the impact to be felt. Farm costs tend to be stable, but as we will see later in the webinar, there is scope inside the farm gate to tackle these more aggressively. In Europe, milk price is holding well, but it comes with a caution. At present, EU authorities have started to accept product into intervention to manage market supply. This potentially could skew the market when this product is then offered for sale at a later date when things have evened out. This is very beneficial, of course, for EU farmers, but not so much for farmers outside the bloc. Across the world, we see most countries on an even keel and so no advantages at present. We would see, though, that lower cost, agile producing nations tend to get back to normal quicker, and this will be no different in the COVID scenario. Very high input, high output markets in the main would be more slowly to recover. I think a reference to Chile's ability to be competitive is a great strength in this regard. So what will happen in 2020? We don't have a crystal ball, but we can make some sort of predictions. It's not clear as of yet, but the early reports show that things won't be as bad as previously expected. Government interventions through direct payments, intervention storage, etc. will help to kickstart demand. Global food service has taken a hit, but it remains to be seen what impact this has and how well it can recover. We do expect to see a U-shaped recovery, so while slow, the tide will turn, with the expectation that this will happen in Q3 into Q4 of 2020. As mentioned before, milk prices have held well, but we may see surpluses in production in the EU, Asia and US, which could start to erode milk price over the second half of 2020. We also don't know what nature will throw at us. And even in parts of EU already this season, example UK, France, Germany, we have had some drought conditions in the early summer. And also the consumer is at the heart of it. If their confidence to spend and get back to pre-COVID conditions is swift, then the markets will see the benefits straight away. To look quickly at markets are progressing, we have a small graph based on what is the forecast for 2020 versus 2019. First of all, the US is expected to have increased production of 1.8% over 2020. This is driven by first half growth at present, which is over 3% year on year. This will taper off, but overall we will see positive growth. Argentina has also seen a bounce back from 2019 with an already estimated growth of plus 8%. As previously mentioned, the EU has held well, with drought causing some localized issues, but in general good growth from Netherlands and Poland are showing strong figures overall. In the southern half, Australia has seen a return to growth following a disappointing 2019, which is a big boost to the dairy economy there. And also New Zealand looks flat, but it is heading towards the end of lactation, so second half figures will indicate better its performance in 2020. Farm milk price perspective, after initial dip, we can get green shoots of recovery. Of course, price has reduced, but not as bad as feared. As said before, stable or reduced farm inputs will help to offset the drop. So what is the production per region? In these two graphs, we see on the bottom left, first of all, EU milk production in 2019 being stable with 2017 and 2018 supplies. Whilst quotas have gone in the EU, the ability of markets to grow is now limited by legislation, sustainability measures, and farm profitability. And of course, the weather is having impacts over the years too. In the top right-hand corner, in the US, we already see the surge in production in Q1, which should again see overall positive growth in the annual cycle. As previously stated, New Zealand production is relatively stable. Numerous droughts over the last number of seasons has meant total annual production has been stable and no significant increase in growth. Again, this is reflected in Australia, with droughts in 2019 being a major challenge for that market. So grassland production. First of all, I want to speak about tons of grass versus the energy produced. So what is the value of grass? Here I've made a short comparison that 1 ton of dry matter costs approximately $74 to produce and yields about 900 units of energy. Why is this important? First of all, if we look at grazed grass and we look at the energy that it produces, like we mentioned, 900 units of energy at a cost of 74. When we convert that to 1,000 units of energy, that's approximately $82 for 1,000 units of energy. When we compare that to concentrate, it's approximately 1,120 units of energy, but at a basis of 1,000 units, it's 305. This means that grazed grass, is 3.5 to 4 times cheaper than concentrate. Turnover versus profit. This is a phrase I like to quote. Turnover is vanity, profit is sanity. It's important that we focus on the profit and not so much on the turnover that we get in markets. This is an example from Ireland, from some Teagasc data. And what we see here is the top 20% of farms' net margin per hectare, regardless of farm size, regardless of the region that it's in, and the bottom 20%. Okay, and as you can see, there is a 7 to 8 times of an increase in margin per hectare in the top 20%. But what drives this? Grass utilized. Over 3 tons more grass is grown in the top 20%. Utilized. The stocking rate, the number of cows per hectare, is increased. And significantly, the amount of concentrate per year fed per cow is less. Next, I also want to speak about growing grass versus utilizing grass. And this comes back to the tonnage of dry matter that farmers are able to grow, but this needs to be taken in context. What are they able to eat? Grass utilization. It's not just more grass, but it's better grass and better usage. This is a table, again from Teagasc, and based on the presentation in 2018. And in this table, we look at the amount of grass grown, the national average, for the last 8 years up to 2016 on farms. And the average in 2016 was 8 tonnes of dry matter per hectare. But the target, based on the research farms and based on the top 20% farms I mentioned before, is 13 tonnes of dry matter. And that's a significant gap between what farms are growing and what farms could be growing based on the national average. And it's important to remember that based on the data collected in Ireland, each extra tonne of dry matter grown is worth 173 euros per hectare. Sustainable production. What do we mean by sustainable production? Well, first of all, let's talk about some common dairy production systems that we see on a global basis. This is a table that outlines the types of production systems that you have, the performance that you see within them systems, and the profitability you would expect from them systems. There are 3 main systems that we try to categorize into. Grazing systems with average yields from 5 to 6,500 litres. Hybrid systems with average yields from 6,500 to 8,000 litres. And then high input systems with average yield from 8 to 12,000 litres. We are not comparing systems to say which is better than the other, But really what we want to do is look at the efficiencies of these systems. If we look at grazing systems and we take in, for instance, the forage within these systems, we can see that even within low-cost grazing systems, you can have high efficiency and low efficiency. And one way that we measure that is the yield of forage equal to litres. So it's the forage to milk ratio. And here you can see where farms are using, achieving 2,500 litres from forage versus 4,500 litres, there is a big impact on the profitability. And this is the same across all of the systems. So in grazing production systems, there's a difference of 30,000 euros per 100 cows. In hybrid systems, it's a difference of over 40,000 euros per 100 cows. And in high input systems, it can be up to 50,000 euros per 100 cows. So regardless of the type of systems, the efficiency in relation to forage within them systems is key. And this is paramount to sustainability. So what are the key success factors? First of all, understand your costs. Where does the money of cost go on the farm, and what is eating the cost? So understanding these is very important. What makes you money? What actually makes you money on the farm? Where does your profit come from? Use a milk from forage ratio. More milk from forage means more profits, and this is across many different systems, many different countries right across the globe. And remember, feed the soil, to feed the grass, to feed the cows. In this example, what we see is the national average in Ireland in relation to the amount of money per hectare generated on a farm, which is approximately 3,000. But when we look at the roadmap target that we set out in Ireland, it's nearly double. But look at the profitability. Overall, the increase in profitability far outweighs the amount of extra revenue that is generated on them farms. And if we look at figures like concentrate, we see that the numbers drop, but when it comes to fertilizer and reseeding, the numbers increase. So spend more money on the field and less money in the shed to drive profitability. So what are the key messages that we have? Grass is the cheapest energy and protein source on the farm, but it needs to be maximized. Sustainable production is about the balance for the environment, the farmer, and the industry. We are working in a world where the consumer demands a more sustainable product, and we must react to this. We can't ignore it. But we must have a sustainable farming system for the farmer as well and for the industry. Competitive dairy production. Know your costs. Control what's inside the gate. If you notice in this webinar, I haven't spoken about the milk price and how that impacts on profitability, because they are uncontrollable factors in a lot of cases. When we look at the comparison from Ireland, where we talk about the top 20% and the bottom 20%, the milk price is the same, but it's the cost that can be controlled inside the gate. That's what will drive the profit. And it's everybody's industry. Collaboration is needed for the industry to succeed. So we must work together. We must take learnings from different markets, from different farmers, from different regions. And how do we use that to build a sustainable, competitive industry for farmers in our own markets? Yara as a partner in dairy and grassland production. We focus on the profitability of farmers and how we can help to do this. We invest in R&D and technologies that will achieve sustainable and competitive dairy production. We will continue to push the boundaries of what farmers can achieve, and many of our solutions across the many markets we work in focus on the farmer's profitability and how we can impact on that positively. And we aim to deliver solutions that will be environmental and farmer sustainable. We need to find a balance between what the environment needs, what the consumer needs, and what the farmer can achieve on his or her own farm. Thank you very much for listening, and I will now take any questions.